Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Erin, aka Faye Fire, and we are here today to discuss the 5th episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, titled In the Name of the Mother. And this was kind of the climactic penultimate episode. This was a very exciting, action-packed episode. There was just so much happening, so much going on, and there was some transitioning. So we got a nice flashback of Dunk and his childhood, and we learned a lot more about how he sort of linked up with Sir Arlen, and just like what a sweet little, innocent guy that he is. And so it was just a fantastic episode. I, of course, really enjoyed it because there were tons of Christ wounding and Fisher King wounding, the Dolorous wound being dealt, and Grail chalices and all of that all over the place. So, of course, I was just loving every moment of it. And, there was an important loss at the end of the episode, which was just really an intense twist for everyone, although most of us knew it was coming. If you've read the books, you knew it was coming, but that doesn't make it any easier. It was still extremely tragic. And of course, Dunk's reaction was extremely tragic. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff, get into all the details of the episode. I was laughing really hard because I saw somebody post on Twitter. They said it was a picture of Baelor, like when he's standing there touching the back of his head, and it said, "Someone needs to put pressure on the wound. Here, let me sit on his face." Highly inappropriate, but very funny. So, yeah, I was just laughing. So it was a really crazy episode. It jumps right in, didn't waste any time. We get right into it with Team Dunk versus Team Targaryen. And so just to remind everyone, Team Dunk is Sir Humphrey Beesbury, who has that killer mustache. He is an honorary Yellow Jacket. Sir Humphrey Harding, Sir Robin Risling, Lionel Baratheon, Raymond Fossaway, and Dunk himself. And then Team Targaryen has, and of course Baelor Targaryen, the man. And then Team Targaryen has Maekar, it has Darren, Sir Donald of Duskendale, Sir Roland Craighall, Sir Willem Wild, those three are of the Kingsguard. We had Sir Steffan Fossaway, the side flip, I don't know what I'm saying. He flipped sides. And Aerion Targaryen himself. So the episode just starts. It just jumps right in, and Baelor is kind of pumping up the men, pumping up Team Dunk. He's like, all right, this is what you need to do. Keep your mounts as long as you can, because these men are going to kill you. That's their job. That's what they're here to do. So don't get it twisted. Don't think that it's otherwise. These men are here to kill you. And of course, Raymond and Dunk, they're green boys. So they start vomiting, which was, I can always appreciate, like I said, I told you guys last week, I always appreciate the toilet humor in this show. Like I just have an immature sense of humor in that way. So I enjoy it. And then we had Egg there with Dunk, and he's just so tiny, and he's holding up the lance here. Let me go ahead. I've got a picture of that. Let me pull it up. And he's just such a little guy out there. We can really see, like, compared to Dunk, who's up on his horse. And here, let me pull that one. Okay, there we go. There's our little Eggy boy. Good morning, Kirsty Angel. Thank you for being here. I so appreciate it. And if you guys are watching live, drop a hello in the chat. Let's get the chat bumping. All right. So we've got Egg. He's kind of standing there. He's ready to hand off the lance, and Dunk takes it. And then he doesn't really say anything. He's like in this very serious moment in the zone. But of course, as he's kind of walking away, like he has that little feeling. He's like, this could very well be the last time that I see Egg. Like, and he's done a lot to kind of get me in this position, but also, there's a lot that led to Dunk being in that position. So he kind of turns around and he looks at him and he's like, you better be here when I get back, or else I'll hunt you down with dogs. And Egg does a little woof, and it's just like, them boys. So it's very sweet. But yeah, Dunk is nervous. You can really tell he's really nervous. And so he goes up. They're all getting lined up and getting ready to get going. And also, one of the things I did want to point out, when the guys are kind of like talking and pumping each other up, Sir Humphrey Beesbury, he says, what of the Kingsguard? And Baylor says that he will handle them and that their oaths prevent them from harming a prince of the blood. And Sir Robin, a vessel for the warrior. And we know the gods are present. This is like the Iliad. This is the war of Troy. And so, he's like, is that honorable, your grace? And Baylor says the gods will decide. And it's just like, you're testing it, bud. You're testing it. Like that wasn't exactly an honorable move. Granted, his entire show of just showing up, that's definitely him being the honorable prince that he is, and balancing the scales. But it's is it honorable to just take on the Kingsguard and distract them, or is it more honorable to fight fairly and take this fight on 7 versus 7? So really, the gods, they did decide at the end of it if this was an honorable move. And we also had Lionel saying that no man fights as fierce as one neglected by his mother. And, that kind of is really a theme of the entire episode. Like, obviously it's called In the Name of the Mother, but there's just so much of that overtone present in the story right at this point. And, we see with Dunk with the flashback scenes, and with Arion, even, he has like the father's love after him. And so it's just a very emotional episode. And Sir Arlen, because, he's always got the mother's back. He is the true knight. So anyhow, Egg, he serves him his lance. The guys are getting lined up. And we had this great prayer from the servant of the Faith of the Seven. And I think I have a photo of that. And I love how he kind of refers to it as he says their bloody offering. And I just think that was an interesting word choice. Of course, he's kind of going through the prayer of it all. But I don't know. I just liked that character. We all need a little prayer, and I would highly recommend Psalm 91:3, because the Lord will keep you safe from the great bird catcher. Anyways, so that was another great part. So then they're kind of getting ready, and then we have, Dunk is kind of freezing up. Like he doesn't really know what to do in this situation. And all the other guys, it's just like Humphrey Harding. He said, you guys are green boys. Like he's pumped. He's ready. They're going to have fun with this. But like Dunk does not know what he's getting into. And so he's just really nervous. And the horn sounds and Dunk just kind of freezes up, and the other men take off, and it's just like immediate starting to crash and fight and battle. And Dunk's just kind of frozen in fear there, like doesn't really know what to do. And then we hear Egg up in the stands, and he starts yelling, go, go, go. Like he's yelling for Thunder. So Thunder knows what to do. So like he's just as much involved. And they had that beautiful training session back in episode 3, I want to say. And so it was just so much fun too. To see him have that, effect. And then as soon as like Dunk, it all kind of clicked in, like Thunder started like, okay, it's time for us to go. And then he's like, okay, let's do this. But of course, that's Dunk the Lunk, thick as a castle wall, he's a little slow. It takes him a minute to kind of, get with the program. But I mean, the thing about Dunk getting out there, he just honestly, like, he did not catch a break. He was getting whooped on. Like he was having a rough go out there. And so immediately he gets struck by Arion's lance, which just straight guts him right in his gut. And then also his shield is splintered. And we all know like that shield is so significant for Dunk. So it really doesn't seem like a very good omen that the thing just broke immediately. So not good. And so Dunk's kind of getting his bearings. And then what do we see but Arion coming around with his mace, and he just cranks him right in the head. He knocks Dunk off of his horse and into the mud. And then we have that scene. And, I loved that they did those shots through the visor, which is just so like visceral and intense. And I really feel like that is so true to how the book is written, and those scenes, like the battle scenes with Dunk, where he's talking about the noise, how loud it is inside the helmet, and when he's getting hit by it, it's like the noise will like make you crazy just as much as like being injured or being being hit. It's like the noise is just like overwhelming. And so and then of course seeing like his visor getting filled with mud, which again, that was like written in the book. And so I just love how visceral it felt in these scenes, because that is definitely one of the really great things about A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, is the way that the battle scenes are written. They're just incredibly visceral. George R. R. Martin has a great skill at writing that. And for some reason, like it just comes through so much more with Dunk, maybe just because he's just such a relatable character and we all just sort of have this love for him. I don't know. But anyways, so he gets knocked off. He's in the mud. Visor all full of mud, helmet full of mud. And then we get this transition to his younger years. And so this is King's Landing, just following Daemon's rebellion, which presumably this is like a nod to the Red Grass Field. I don't think the timeline exactly matches up, but it's kind of just giving us the vibe. And so we see Dunk, he's out on this battlefield that's, post battle, and he's prying horse hooves from like dead horses out there and just kind of scavenging, getting, whatever seems of value out there. And he's just like young and scraggly looking, and we know that Dunk was an orphan child, and he just he's having a rough go. Like, I can't imagine my kid being out there having to do what he's out there doing. It's just heartbreaking. And he's like prying these hooves off of this horse, the horseshoe, and the guy is kind of waking up. And I don't know exactly what house he's from. I was kind of thinking Frey just because of the towers on his thing, but he could be a high tower also. I'm not sure. But anyhow, so, and the guy is just like suffering. He's gasping for air, and he's trapped underneath his horse. And, Dunk's just a kid. There's nothing he can really do. So he decides to just put the guy out of his misery. And then his friend comes up and stops him, and she's like, Dunk, knock it off. Like, these are the highborn lords. We're supposed to say a prayer for them so they don't end up in hell with us, and that's just like the caste system, right, of their society. The highborn versus the lowborn. They're like, these people are, they elevate them to, I don't know, like a god status. And that's a really interesting thing as well, because, originally, like, the Targaryens are the ones who get all that credit. They're closer to gods than men. And especially during like the Dance of the Dragons, when they actually have dragons, they really elevate themselves and differentiate themselves from the other, just everybody else. Like, they are just their own people, a race apart, and that kind of thing. And so now, so many years after the Dance of the Dragon, these people have now elevated the highborn to sort of a same godlike status. They're like, we have to say a prayer for them or else they'll end up in hell with us. They're better than us. They're different than us. We're just, gutter rats from Flea Bottom kind of thing. And so there's definitely like, some commentary there. But also Rafe. So Rafe is written about in the book, but Rafe is not specified to be a girl. So this was kind of a surprising change for Dunk, for this character. And I mentioned this last week when we saw the trailer. One of the things that stood out, and my husband was the one that pointed this out, that Rafe looks similar to Tanzel. They kind of have a similar look, the curly dark hair. And so it's kind of interesting, like that might be why Dunk felt so connected to Tanzel or so attracted to her, is that she is sort of a familiar presence to him. And then, of course, Rafe, she's played by Chloe Leah, she acted in Dune Prophecy. She played the little gal who drinks the water of life. And so a big difference for her character, but I actually really like her as Rafe. I think she's great in that role. She just is perfect, like just a little, gutter rat girl, like Dunk was. I just loved it. She did a great job in the role. She's very sassy. You could really see like in that scene when Alistair like has her cornered and he's taken her money and she's just looking at him like, I'm just like, girl, like that's a scary look in a girl's eye. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting. She's just did a great job in this role. So anyways, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but yeah, so they're walking back to King's Landing, I guess, after they've been doing their work, collecting horseshoes and whatever other valuables these dead soldiers have left behind, including Blackfire leather, and which is no longer welcome in the city. They're not buying anything like that. Damon's rebellion is over, but they're walking back and they have this interesting conversation. Like, Dunk is very optimistic. He's like, well, the Black Dragon is dead and we're all going to get free bread now. But Rafe, she really recognizes that, it's more unsafe than ever because now the war is over. There's a lot of people suffering. Like we see that when they go back into the alleyways, like there's all these injured and sick and dying soldiers who fought, and they're all being like treated by just women in the alleys of Flea Bottom. There's no health care, there's no hospital or anything like that. So it is a pretty like harsh scene. And Rafe really recognizes that it's just really unsafe right now. She tells this story about Pudding and Cedric's little brother, and how one of them, like Cedric's little brother, was accidentally killed, and then so his older brother came back a year later and burned down half of Flea Bottom, because it's just, people don't forget. You don't forget when you have been wounded. They want to get you back. They want to get retaliation for that. So, and one of the things I really thought was interesting in this scene, and this is the second time we've seen this. Okay, so while they're walking down the road, there's a soldier that's approaching them on horse. So they like go off to the side of the road and hide, and they watch this knight as he's riding back, and he is collecting bodies, I guess, presumably from was he coming from the opposite direction? Yeah, he was. So I don't know where he was coming from, but he has this dead body slung over his horse. And here, let me pull up the picture, because this is the second time that we have seen this shield. And it was seen earlier in an earlier episode, like maybe episode 2. Was it the first? No, it would have been episode 3. I want to say this person had participated in the lists, and Egg and Dunk had seen, had been watching, and their shield, which I have been able to identify as from House Stokeworth, has a lamb in a golden jeweled chalice. Now, if you've been watching my Dunk and Egg coverage, Sir Arlen has the winged chalice on his shield, and that is connected to the Holy Grail, and that's like a huge part of his entire personality and his presence as a true knight, is that he is a Grail knight, actually a knight of the Holy Grail. And so him being a hedge knight, he's actually being the truest kind of knight, because he's out there to protect the realm rather than one specific highborn lord or this or that. So I thought it was really interesting that we've seen this shield a couple of times now, and there's no real characterization to the person that's bearing it. This is from House Stokeworth, but and I haven't gone down the rabbit hole of trying to connect them to Holy Grail symbolism, but I guess that's the project of this week. But I just thought it was really interesting because we are, I've already given that to Sir Arlen. He is a Grail Knight. He's out there wandering and being a true knight. Well, now we also have House Stokeworth with a similar sigil on their shield. They're out wandering, doing, participating in various things. And as I said, the tourney at Ashford Meadow is sort of a reenactment or inspired by the war at Troy. So the Trojan War, where the gods were very present and they, took sides. They had their favored warriors and that kind of thing. So the gods are present, just like we've seen in the tourney at Ashford Meadow. They keep saying it, like Robin Riesling being there, this weird, like prophetic lady that, tells of Egg's death, all these different little elements where it seems like the faith of the seven are present at this tourney, and they are, they have their hand in the mix, so to say, as it were, as Egg would say. All right, so let me go ahead. I'll get caught up in the chat with you guys really quick, and then we'll proceed. So, and thank you. If you guys are here watching live, drop a hello in the chat. It's very nice to have you here. And yeah, let's see. So we've got Carl Karsnark, Epic Cindy, Epicindy, and Kirsty Angel here. Thank you guys. I know Mrs. Duncan the Tall is listening. She's dealing with some stuff. She was actually going to come on today and we were going to stream together, but she's got some things happening. So, all right. And if you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. Yeah, bring out your dead for sure. The vibes. Exactly. What? 80 degrees? That's wild. Your garden that's lucky. It's actually freezing here. It's like we're having a cold snap right now, so I would love some 80 degrees. Okay. What are they using the corpses for? Selling them to maesters, mayhaps? Doctors always need corpses, Yeah, good point. Fair point. I mean, I guess it seems like they're taking them out of King's Landing, but it's an awful long ride to the Citadel. So I don't know. One other thing I did notice actually is later when Sir Arlen, he finally leaves King's Landing, and that first night when Dunk kind of like sneaks into his camp and he's like checking out his stuff, there is a what appears to be a fresh grave mound right there. And that helmet that Dunk tries on is set on top of that. It's like fresh dirt and it looks like a grave. And so my thought was, if these are Grail Knights that are wandering and they're doing, if they have some sort of purpose, then perhaps this body that we see right here that he's, that this potential Grail Knight is taking out of the city, perhaps he took him somewhere, to a sacred burial site or something of that nature. And then that's where Sir Arlen went for his first night. Perhaps this is a significant location to the Grail Knights of the Seven Kingdoms. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense? So perhaps this body that he's carrying out is somebody significant to the Grail Knights. But that was just something that I caught. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's something. All right. So yes, we're bone smashing, we're looks maxing, we are night maxing. But we're definitely bone smashing, because you got to mog the moids. And sometimes you got to chat mog a little bit just to, balance the scales. All right. We learned today that there's a witch who buys teeth. Yes, exactly. I'd love to know who that is. My money's on Shiera Seastar, but okay, let's see. Yeah, lizard folk. Well, maybe there's lizard folk buying teeth also in King's Landing. There could be all kinds of. I think we need to be conspiracy maxing in King's Landing. So, I mean, what's the difference between that and, the swamp? So, Are the corpses fellow Stokeworths or just randoms? That's the question. It could potentially just be a Stokeworth, and they're sent to retrieve this body of, you know, somebody significant. But or it's our Grail Knight, and this is the sacred burial. Perhaps the Grail Knight, you know, perhaps much like the tourney at Ashford Meadow, like maybe there was, you know, the gods had their hand in the red grass field. And, you know, because that was a crazy battle. Like that was like where Bloodraven lost his eye. And it's like all these, you know, Blackfires versus the Trueborn Targaryens. And that was a crazy battle. So, I mean, we haven't seen the details of that, but if the gods have a hand in the tourney at Ashford Meadow, like why wouldn't they have a hand in like a crazy civil war of the Targaryens? You know what I'm saying? So they seem interested in like Targaryenism, #Targaryenism. Okay. I thought he had buried his squire, potentially, you know. Well, no. Oh, you mean Sir Arlen? I mean, we didn't see him leave with a body. And yes, his nephew did die in the Battle of Redgrass Field, and that was his squire before Dunk was. So that's kind of part of also Sir Arlen's like drunkenness, and he's sort of going through like his own mourning process because his nephew, his squire, was killed in this war. And so you have to imagine he probably feels responsible and a, you know, big sense of loss there. Okay, let's see. I'm of the camp that Dunk will actually have to kill Egg at Summerhall to serve the realm as a true knight must. That's the potential. That's the tragedy. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people think is going to happen. You know, there's been, I don't know. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard the menace Dexter Sol Ansel. He's been out menace maxing all over the realm all week long. He has spilled the beans. Why'd you have to go and spill your beans, Egg? Anyways, but he spilled some beans this week, and he revealed that, if you don't want to hear this, plug your ears for 10 seconds, okay? Dunk may not die at Summerhall. Egg says that George R. R. Martin told him that Dunk does not die at Summerhall. So this was revealed in an interview. They were like making sock puppets. him and Dunk was like, you know, like zip it. But no, so there's the potential. And so there's a lot of different things that, you know, may happen at Summerhall. We all have our speculations. We only have a small fragment of a record to know what exactly happened. And so, yeah, but we have a long time to speculate on that, because that's going to be like the very, very end of the story. And right now we're at the very, very beginning of the story. So, yeah. I'm not listening. All right. Let me get caught up. Yes, we are going to get to that in just a moment. Sir Arlen singing in Dothraki. And I have the translation for that as well. So shout out to Alt-Shift-X for posting that. I got that this morning. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that. Yes. Yep, we will. Okay. So etymology for Rafe. Okay, so this, we're going to get into a little bit of, well, no, not even. Okay, from Radulfur, meaning Council of the Wolf or Wise Wolf, short for Raphael, the Archangel. Form of Ralph, and tied to slang for mischievous spirit in the 19th century. Well, that seems apt for her. And again, I absolutely love that they cast a girl for that role. Like, I just think that was like, you know, I'm not always the biggest fan of like subverting the cast, or, you know, that kind of thing, switching it up, gender swapping the roles or what have you. Not necessarily always my favorite thing, but this actually worked really well. Okay. Yes. Prince Aegon must say what he likes. Okay. Yeah. They're both kind of old by the time we get to Summerhall. So, and I love that. Yeah, definitely drop if you want to drop in. I love etymology and fun stuff like that. So if you ever want to drop that in the chat, go for it, guys. Okay. So, all right. So let's get back into it. Let me just take a sip of coffee. I'm coffee maxing. Nick Fuentes would be so pissed at me. Okay. Now we're just gooning. Okay. So we shift back to Flea Bottom. Lovely place. But as we said, there's a bunch of injured and dying soldiers. They're literally being treated like in the streets. They're not having a good time. It's not looking good down there. So Rafe and Dunk, they're walking through and they get stopped by this city watch guard. And his name is Alistair, which of course, like it's always an Alistair, right? They're always like just the most pleasant men in the world of George R.R. Martin. So, did he know someone named Alistair at a certain point in life? Is he like, dude, he mogs Alistairs. Okay. So they get stopped by him and he's like, hey, he's kind of messing with them. He's like, what have you guys been up to, you little thieves, da 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 da. And then thankfully somebody comes kind of crashing through and creates a distraction, so they slip away. But she is able, she snatches his wine sack, and she's like, heck yeah. And so she's drinking that. She's like, well, it tastes like the Queen's own brew or something like that. And so they're kind of making their way and they go to sell their wares, sell their their findings, their horseshoes and old leather and God only knows what else, their teeth. And so they get paid. They won't take the Blackfire leather. So that's just kind of like a little nod. Damon's rebellion is over. We're not doing that. Here, actually, let me pull up another photo because we just have a dead guy on the horse right now. Here, and so they get their coin and they're all very excited and they go rushing back to their little hovel, I guess you would call it. Like they live, it appears to me that they live underneath somewhere, like underneath a business or someone's house or something of that nature. And it's just the two of them. You can see they have like little stuff up on the shelf there, their little knickknacks and whatnot, but it's just the two of them. And it's sad. Like this whole thing just made me very sad inside. I just, yeah, it was just a kind of sad scene for these little guys. And so they are making plans. They've been saving up their money from their work that they're doing. And they are trying to get out of the city. They want to go to the free cities in Essos. They don't really know. And like Dunk is nervous. He's like, I don't know, like what's to say that's going to be anything better than what we're already dealing with here. Like it could be worse. It could be just the same. Like we may not find anything. Like what's the point of us actually going? And Dunk actually expresses that he's got a little bit of fear. He thinks that his mother might return for him. His mother's dead. He knows his mother's dead. And so that kind of also creates the question, like, did he know her at one point? Or is he just really like clinging on to hope, to a memory, something like that? But he knows his mother's not really going to come back for him, but he's still, he's just nervous. He's just nervous to leave. He's really bonded to Rafe, and she's like, well, look, you love me. I love you too. Don't you know it? But I am leaving. And so you better come with me or else, like it is what it is. I'm leaving. I'm getting out of here. She thinks that Flea Bottom is a tinderbox waiting to go, so. All right. So the next day they go to buy their passage, but the price has doubled because everybody's trying to get out of the city at this point. It's after the war, after the fighting, there's a overflow of people. Everything's really crowded. And Rafe is not happy. She's like, seriously? And for a moment, like I was like, well, maybe she's just going to take all their money and go, buy one passage and go find a way to do that or something like that. But no, it goes a lot worse than that. So Dunk, he's like, we're going to find a way. It's going to be okay. And then Alistair comes out the cut and he's got his knife and he kind of holds them up and he's like, I want my wine sack back. And she tells them that she sold it. And so he's pretty ticked. So he kind of shakes them down and takes their money, their coin that they had. And that was just, that just pushed Rafe over the edge, and I don't blame the poor girl. Like, bless her heart. Let me pull up another photo here because I think I've got one from this scene. But yeah, that really pushed her over the edge. She like could not handle that. Oh, maybe I didn't save that one, but I do have this. And by the way, the glass floats in the background represent, glass floats are my jam. Anyhow. So yeah, she's just really ticked. Alistair's holding them up. Dunk's like, let's just go. Let's get out of here. Like, let's just go. Dunk's, spidey senses are tingling. And so as they're leaving, Rafe, she kind of like pushes Alistair off, but she grabs his knife out of his holster and she tucks it in her pants, and they're like walking away, but he knows her too well and he checks immediately and realizes that, yeah, she's lifted another thing off of him. And so he goes after her and he pulls the knife out, and it's like, it just happens before anyone can think twice, but he cuts her throat, and it's just awful, like so awful, so gory and horrific, and just, it was a long death, and that was rough for poor Dunk. And so that happens. She gets cut. She falls into his arms, and she's dying. And then Alistair orders the other guard to, stick Dunk. So he stabs him through the leg with his spear. And then he goes to get him again, and who comes busting out of the door and like knocks the spear out of the way. But the wonderful and blessed Sir Arlen, God bless his soul, he comes out the cut and he's like, in the name of the mother, leave that boy be. And then he just straight mollywops the ish out of these guys. He just, as we've learned, we've known this for a long time, guys. Long sword's a poor choice in close quarters, but Sir Arlen made it work, and he took off the one guard's head, and it just goes into the pig pen. He's fighting with Alistair. He gets him with the, the hay hook thing, and then he ends up just taking his knife and sticking it through the guy's throat. And I mean, I love that. That had to be like one of the best battle scenes, best fight scenes I've ever seen. I just loved it so much. I was just like, yes, Sir Arlen. Like, he is just such a badass. And he's just, I mean, that's the true knight. Like, he's not going to put up with that. He's like, I don't care. I'll kill you if you're in the city watch. No questions asked. He just straight cooked those guys. No problem. And so, and Dunk's just sitting there like, what just happened? Like, he's watching the whole thing go down. Poor Rafe is just dying right there. He's trying to like, I don't even know, help her into the afterlife. It was just a terrible situation. He's stabbed through the leg in a nasty wound, and he's just a boy. He's just a kid. And so, thank God Sir Arlen was there. And then, of course, he's just like, all right, well, I'm out of here. And I love also, he's drunk as a skunk. And like the first punch that he takes, he just starts vomiting. It is just, I mean, he's just epic. There's nothing not perfect about Sir Arlen. I love him. Like, no one could love him more than me. I'm his number one stan. So yeah, that was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And then he just goes back about his business, and poor Dunk ends up going back to his little hovel, his little home. And he is sad. He's very sad about Rafe. He's crying. He's injured. He probably doesn't really know how to take care of himself very well. Like, I would be willing to bet Rafe took care of him. She looked after him. Boys don't know how to take care of themselves very well. So I'm sure that she was kind of, looking out for him. And then he wakes up in the morning and he sees out through that little grate, their little window down there, that Sir Arlen is out there. And what's he doing? He's buying apples. My Grail Knight, buying the apples of Avalon. And so he's buying, or maybe it's for Chestnut. This is like one of those like my brain awakening memes. He's buying the apples for Chestnut, or he's buying the apples because he's a Grail Knight. So Yeah, he's buying the apples, and Dunk is just like, what else do I got to lose? So he starts following him, and he's limping along behind him for days, which is just like, again, pull my heartstrings. Like, that just broke my heart. Like, Dunk just limping along behind, and it's like, is Sir Arlen even aware that he's back there? Like, I like to think that he was slightly aware that he was back there, but also kind of like, let's see how far this will go, sort of thing. Or maybe he's challenging him, like seeing how strong he is. Can he handle this? It's unclear. That first night, of course, he's following him, and Dunk sneaks in, and like we talked about, there was this grave mound there with the helmet sitting on top. It's unclear whose grave it was, but Sir Arlen is sleeping at that site, and we see he's got his shield here, the winged chalice, and Dunk, Sir Arlen, he's a pretty drunk guy. It seems like he's a pretty drunk guy most of the time. So he's passed out, and Dunk's just kind of like checking out his stuff. And it's very much like Egg did to him when, he went into the tavern. He's just like exploring the stuff, checking it out. He's like, whoa, this is a cool sword. He's just like in awe. I mean, like, as a young man would be, it's just sort of, it's very Percival. Like, Percival followed Lancelot or Gawain for a while, and just sort of integrated himself in there. And he was just in awe when he saw these knights. Now, granted, in that version in Percival, the knights are wearing like white, shining, glowing, shimmering armor. And this is at a period of time where they didn't see things like that. That was a rare sight to see. So Percival almost equates it with an angel. He's like, that's an angel right there. And so he feels the urge to follow an angel, not necessarily a knight. So there's this major association between knights and sort of that saintlyhood, in a sense. This is all we've talked about all season long. I know you guys are with me. Okay. Anyways. Okay. So Dunk's following him for several days. He's watching him. Oh, okay. Let me pull up the Dothraki singing that he's doing, which is just so cool. I just love this scene. So, well, several scenes. He's just singing his heart out all the time. It's like he's singing away the demons. He's like, try me, bitch. Like, I will, my voice will send you running. Okay? My voice will mog you straight out of the fucking realm. Okay? Sorry, language, but sometimes you got to chat mog. Okay, so the song he's singing says, the ropes of death enwrapped me. Ungodly men have made me afraid. The ropes of hell abound me. The sorrows of death prevented me. In my distress, I called upon you, the great stallion, who is worthy to be praised. So I shall be saved from my strong enemy, beat them small as the dust before the wind. I will cast the evil out as the dirt in the streets. Courage is my salvation. Mercy is my light. Amen. Amen, Sir Arlen. Make my feet like hinds' feet, that my step would not blunder. Gird me with might, that I might destroy them that hate me. I will cast the evil out as the dirt in the streets. Courage is my salvation. Mercy is my light. Hear me. You know what this really brought to mind, and I've read this before for you guys, is this poem this song that Lancelot sings to Arthur and Guinevere. I've read this to you guys before, when I don't remember exactly when. It had to have been during like House of the Dragon season. So I wanted to just read it to you because it like reminded me so much of it as sort of like a Dothraki version of this Lancelot song. And this is from The Mists of Avalon, and this is just really like one of my favorite passages. So Lancelot is singing this song. He's just returned from battle. There's been all this drama like with Guinevere, and he's trying to just be chaste and be a good true knight. And it's just like, gird my loins, am I right? Anyways, so he says, "What sorrow is like to the sorrow of one who is alone? Once I dwelt in the company of the king I loved well, and my arm was heavy with the weight of the rings he gave, and my heart weighed down with the gold of his love. The face of the king is like the sun to those who surround him, but now my heart is empty, and I wander alone throughout the world. The groves take on their blossoms, the trees and meadows grow fair, but the cuckoo, saddest of the singers, cries forth the lonely sorrow of the exile. And now my heart goes wandering in search of what I shall never see more. All the faces are alike to me if I cannot see the face of my king, and all countries are alike to me when I cannot see the fair fields and meadows of my home. So I shall arise and follow my heart in its wandering, for what is the fair meadow of home to me when I cannot see the face of my king? And the weight on my arm is but a band of gold when the heart is empty of the weight of love. And so I shall go roaming over the fish's roads and the road of the great whale and beyond the country of the wave, with none to bear me company but the memory of those I loved and the songs I sang out of a full heart and the cuckoo's cry in memory." For some reason, the song just like was just, it was just like on that energy, right? And Sir Arlen being like this Grail Knight, Lancelot being, a proto Grail Knight. Yeah, it's just there. It's just there. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Not for the first time, probably not for the last time, because I absolutely love that little segment of that book. So, yes. Gird me with might from Sir Arlen the Hund. Excuse me. Gird the like and subscribe, guys. Yes, please. Okay. Yes. Oh, there you go. Maybe they got that from Miss of Avalon for all we know. Okay. So, all right. So, Sir Arlen, he's singing in Dothraki. He's singing away the ghosts. He's singing away the bad energy. He's keeping those MFers away, with his voice, because really, like, what more do you have at the end of the day? You have your voice, and no one can take that from you, no matter how hard they try. So, Dunk, he's following, he's limping, and it's getting worse. He's not doing so well. He's getting pretty sick. I love that little scene. He's drinking out of like the muskeg water, which guaranteed nasty. So he's drinking out of the muskeg, and then what do we see? The next scene is him throwing up, just puking his guts out because he drank some bad water. And he's wounded. I mean, it's just getting worse for Dunk. He is not doing well. This guy, he went through it. He went through it this episode, from childhood to current times. And so Sir Arlen, he's getting drunk. He falls asleep. And I love this moment. He wakes up and he's fallen asleep on his knife. He literally Dolorous wounded himself. He Christ wounded himself right in the gut. So I loved that. I was like, this is just perfect. This is just too perfect. I can't stand it. It's too good. So we have our Christ wounding. We have our Dolorous wound. And then he wakes up and he sees that this poor kid is still limping along and following him. And then it's very reminiscent of the Two Towers, Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, when those kids, they ride and they're trying to get to Rohan. And then eventually they finally get there. They're at the hilltop and the little boy like falls off the horse. And it was very reminiscent of that scene where Dunk just kind of collapses. He's on the road, but he is just too sick and dehydrated and just not doing well. And so Sir Arlen finally goes up to him, takes him his water sack. Dunk's just laying there pathetically, and Sir Arlen says, "Get up." And then we get our transition. We're going back to the battle scene. So we're back to the mud in the visor. And, again, this is just like how it goes in the book, just very visceral and intense with, what's happening inside the helm. And so, yeah, it's interesting. It's good stuff. Dunk starts waking back up. Arion wastes no time. He starts coming over and starts just beating the hell out of Dunk. They're going back and forth, and Dunk ends up getting on top of Arion, but Arion gives him the Viper, and this is another thing I do want to point out. Like, there is a difference in their fighting style, and you can tell that Aerion is more skilled. He's grown up, he's a prince, a Targaryen prince. So he's grown up learning from the best of the best how to fight, and how, you can tell he has technique. He has a lot of skill when it comes to fighting. And Dunk's, his balance to that, or his match to that is just straight brute strength and force, and that's all he can really counter with. So we see Aerion, and again, this is like the Targaryens. We saw this also with Rhaenyra, where they're just so serpentine, like in their movement, in their action, in the way that they say things. And so Aerion is very much that way. Like when Dunk punched him, and he's like spitting out the blood in his mouth, and like his teeth, he really acts with his teeth. And I think that Emma Darcy does the same thing with Rhaenyra. She acts with the teeth. And it's just like that serpentine, that sort of dragon behavior. And it's very animalistic, because showing the teeth is like a warning in animal world. And so it's just very interesting. Let me go ahead. I'm going to pull up a new photo real quick. Here we go. I've got this of these guys. Okay. So, they're just fighting. Dunk is getting messed up. So Aerion stabs him a couple of times, gives him the Viper. He gets him a 1-2, like strike by the Viper, and gets him right in in his side, or that was in kind of his thigh area. And then he's trying to get him, and you could see, like, it's a really scary moment because Aerion's on top of him, but like you can see these gaps in his armor where you can see Dunk's throat, or you can see his chin, and Aerion's got his knife, and you can just tell like it's like he's so vulnerable right there. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And of course I've read the book, and of course I know there are future stories, but it's still like really scary when you're watching it. Like, it was just so well done that you're really lost in the moment, and you're like, is he going to make it out of this? And so it was excellent. And I've heard from Ira Parker, who is the creator of the show, that, they had to do this battle on a pretty low budget. And so they had to kind of come up with ways to make it really intense without having it be like they're focused on all these separate battles that are happening between the various factions that are out there, right? And so we spent a lot of time focused on Aerion and Dunk, and it's very like foggy and gray in the background. And then occasionally we'll see somebody, ride through and do something crazy. And I just think that was a great way to film it. I really liked that a lot. It kept it intimate, for the scene, the fight that you're watching. And despite just chaos and death going on all around them. So it was great. But Dunk, he literally cannot catch a break. Like he keeps getting stabbed. He gets one through the hand, which that was really nasty. They end up, they're sword fighting each other. There's people coming from the outside, like whopping it. I mean, it's just intense. And it's sort of like a bear getting into like a bee's nest. Like they're just getting stung a million times, and all it's doing is like pissing them off, but it's not enough to stop them. So Dunk is like the bear. Like he can take a million cuts, death by 1,000 cuts or whatever. And that's what Aerion is hoping for. He's like, if I can get him enough times, enough like small cuts, then that'll take him out. And it nearly almost does, but it also is enough to piss Dunk off to the point where he's just like, okay, I'm gonna just rage. He's like rage maxing, it's building, and yeah. And so finally he rips off his visor, his helmet, because we had that moment, like Aerion gets him in the eye. And I don't know if you're watching the Pendragon cycle, but there was a similar scene in this past week's episode. So I highly recommend checking that out. But yeah, it's kind of funny, like when you get him in the eye, and this is something that like George R. R. Martin is also really good about writing, is when somebody takes an eye injury, and this is even done with Dreamfire. When they take an eye injury, it just makes them crazy. Like they just start like berserker mode. Like they don't know what to do, because you can't really see like what's happening when you have all this blood in your eye, and you can just assume that somebody's coming at you and getting you in your weak moment. And so we see Dunk sort of like, swinging his sword and just irrational dealing with that eye injury. He takes the helmet off, and then he's finally like, okay, now I can like see what's going on. I have a better angle on this. And so he just goes at Arion. He knocks him on the ground. He rips his shield off of his arm, and he just starts smashing him in the head. And Arion's got the helmet on, but he's definitely like, he's not enjoying life right then. And so and he rips his mask off, he's punching him, and then finally Arion's like, he yields, and he gives up. And so Dunk is like, okay, cool. And so he no, I think I got ahead of myself. I'm so sorry. He gets him in the leg. Sorry, he doesn't yield quite yet. He gets him in the leg. We get our Fisher King wounding. Sorry, got ahead of myself. We got the Fisher King wounding, a groin wound. And, this is also payback for Egg, his experience, what he had gone through. He shared that story in the last episode with Dunk about Arion, who would sneak into his room and put his knife between his legs and threatened to turn him into a girl and make him his wife. I mean, it's just really awful. And Dunk didn't forget that. So, he paid him back for that. He puts the knife right between his legs and threatens to make him a girl. It was pretty gnarly, but also a Fisher King wounding, because that is like a groin, thigh sort of wounding. And that's like sort of a like curse. In a sense, we don't have to get into all of that right now, but what I did think it was significant that Dunk gives that wounding to Arion, and it's like, he's just setting Egg up to be king. Like, sorry, the setup is there. The setup is happening right before our eyes. So, So Maekar sees this happening. He hears Arion screaming, and he's just like, oh my gosh, my boy. He tries to get away from his brother. He just smashes him. And, he's trying to run over to his son, but Dunk is like Dunk kind of goes into this catatonic, like, he just has to die for a minute. He becomes a castle wall. He goes into castle wall mode. He just sort of falls over and kind of he just needed to die for a minute. And then we have Egg out there in the stands, and he's just screaming, get up, sir, get up, sir. Break my heart. Like, little Egg, he's just, his little voice, it just rips my heart out. And he's, losing confidence. He's like really scared that Dunk is not going to get back up. And he's yelling for him, and it's just the same as Sir Arlen, get up. And Egg's like, get up. And it's just, And so finally Dunk, okay, he snaps out of it. He kind of gasps, and Arion thinks that he's got this one in the bag. He's like, he's dead. But Egg sees signs of life, and he stops the guy that's about to blow the horn and like end the whole thing. He's like, wait. And so Dunk, he gasps for air, and he gets back up, and then you see this moment on Arion's face where he's just like, oh crap, like he doesn't want to have to do this. He's pretty messed up too. Like, he's got that thigh wound, which really does not look good at all, and he's got a femoral artery there. I mean, it's not good. And so Dunk gets up, and he's like, all right. And he goes full package Mogger on him and just starts beating the crap out of him, smashing his head in, bashing his face in. And then Arion finally yields. He says, I yield. And Dunk's like, say it louder. And so he drags him across the yard, takes him up before Lord Ashford, and he says, tell him. And so Arion yields. He says he withdraws his accusation. And then Dunk is just like, okay, thank you. And and Steely Pate and Raymond come running for him and grab him as he's just like falling over. So they take Dunk into the back, and he's really messed up. He's got his chainmail like embedded into his skin from the lance wound. Steely Pate's like, let's get him drunk and pour hot oil on it. Oh my Lord. Thankfully, Baylor has that much coherence still left in him. He's like, If you pour hot oil on him, that will kill him. It's wine, not oil. And so, and Dunk's just like, oh, he's just in a rough way. He's like, I feel drunk. I feel like I'm dying. I feel like everything's broken. But when Baelor comes in, he still has the strength and the wherewithal to get down on one knee, and he swears himself to Baelor. He says, I am your man, sir. I am your man. He is just like, he is there to serve. And Baelor's like, yes, I need good men. The realm, and we're starting to notice like he's very quiet. His voice is very quiet, and he's sort of slurred, and he's sort of unbalanced on his feet. He asks Raymond for help removing his helm. He says the visor is cracked, and then Raymond can't get it off because they've noticed the back has been smashed in, and so he gets Goodman Pate to help him take the helmet off, and they're both just like, and Baelor's like, huh. And he reaches back and there's blood, and then he turns around and we got to see, yes, his head is caved in, and the helmet was sort of holding things intact for the time being. But as soon as that helmet was removed, everything just disintegrated, and Baelor falls over. Dunk is there to catch him, but I mean, he's absolutely devastated. And Egg actually had just come in, so he saw the whole thing go down as well. But Dunk is just weeping. He is just like, he's so sorry. He's like, get up, sir, get up, sir. And, he's just, I mean, absolutely devastated by the whole thing. Baelor had been there for him. He had, we'll get into this also next week because they gave us kind of a glimpse of this in the trailer, but he sacrificed it all. He sacrificed a lot. He gave a lot to defend Dunk, and, took a big, a stand. It was a big move what he did to defend Dunk. And then now he's dead, and that blood is sort of on Dunk's hands. And so it's just this really devastating thing that was never what he intended. And really, what came to my mind was like, just imagine, like, let's just imagine. All right. Now, I am not on one side or the other of this debate. I haven't really taken a side on it, but the debate on whether Dunk was truly knighted by Sir Arlen. And that's really the question at the end of the day. Like, was he truly knighted? Is he actually a knight? Or is this all just sort of on a wing and a prayer, and he is just kind of flying by the seat of his pants, And here, I think I've got a picture of Dunk here. So like, we can imagine in this situation, like, let's just pretend that Dunk was not knighted, and this whole thing has been sort of a farce, and he is not truly a knight, and he's not, anyone of importance, and he is sort of just playing pretend. Yeah, I was knighted, and now look at where things have ended up. Just look at how things have ended up. Baelor Breakspear is dead, and this was, potentially just because Dunk wanted to play at being a knight. There's something to be said there. Like, it took it a little too far, I think. But what choice did he have? Once the ball was in motion, he couldn't really stop it. And, we've talked about so many times, like, the gods were at play here. Like, in the tourney of Ashford, they clearly have a hand in whatever is going on. And so if Dunk, in contrast to Baelor, like we talked about earlier, like, is it truly honorable what Baelor did, just taking on the King's Guard and sort of holding them back from everyone else, versus what Dunk did? Is, who's more honorable, and how do the gods feel about that? And with the way that everything played out, like, we kind of are given our answers. Like, the gods have decided. It's not up to it. Dunk's trial was like, are you for real, bro? Like, are you for real? How far are we going to take this, my guy? Are we night maxing, or are we like gonna die? So I don't know. It's just pretty interesting. And yeah, like I said, like, Sir Robin, he's sort of he's the vessel for the warrior. So it was like that judgment at play, you know, and he was on Dunk's team. So he already like recognized. And it was even funny because like when Sir Robin comes in that scene with Egg, where he like encounters him while he's out there training with Thunder, and Sir Robin comes in and he's just like, he doesn't even know who Dunk is. He's like, who? I've never heard of him. So it's just kind of funny the way that it all played out in the end, the judgment of the gods, because really that's what it is, the judgment of Seven. And actually that's what Peter Claffey, who plays Dunk, that's what he called it. He called it the judgment of Seven. He didn't call it the battle of Seven or the trial of Seven. It was the judgment of Seven. So yeah, I think, you know, we got so many like divine judgments dealt in this episode. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, maybe. Yeah, there's definitely, and I talked about that in my video, like the one eye to have knowledge of the runes. And so if he is a vessel for the warrior, like it's sort of in that vein. All right. So let me go ahead. Let me get caught up in the chat. But yeah, that was about the end of the episode. Dunk, yeah, he's kind of got all that responsibility falling upon him, even now as the battle has ended. Yeah. And Baelor's death, his blood is sort of on his hands. And so it's a really frightening moment. Yeah. So, okay. Now, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and get caught up here. So, okay. Here we go. Kirsty Angel, etymology for Arlen in different cultures. We have oath, pledge, little rock, and a variant of Aslan. Ooh, I really like that. Wolf and Kazakh, foreigner and stranger. That's perfect. Okay. Let's see. Look how they massacred my boy. Yeah, you could definitely tell, like, Mykar, like, he was, you know, it was hard for him to be out there and have his son potentially being killed. And, like, you know, of course, any father's instinct would be to try and get to him as soon as possible. But it's like, dude, your son is the one who initiated all of this. Like, Arion is the one who started all of this. So, like, if he ends up getting killed, like, you know, he brought that upon his own self. But it doesn't make it any easier for Mykar, you know, as a father. So it was kind of tragic when he's like, my boy, like, he's trying to get to him. And I really like Mykar. Like, he is fantastic. Is it Steven Spruill, I believe is his name, who's playing him? Is it Steven? I don't remember if it's Steven, but he's doing a fantastic job. I really like him in the role. And I also just like how Mykar is written. He is just like, I don't know. He's just dry. He's like how they're, you know, sort of Stannis coded, but funnier, way funnier. And I don't know. I just like him. He's just an interesting sort of character. So I'm excited to see the future for his character and, you know, the future responsibility for his character. Because it is just so interesting how it all fell on his family. You know, despite everything, like all of a sudden it's Mykar is this significant person. His sons are all significant. They're all dreamers too, you know, and I actually have a little video. Actually, I already have the audio recorded, so I'll probably put that out for you guys this week. I was going to try and make it a short, but it's a little bit too long to be a short, but it's also a little bit short to be a video, but it is what it is. It's going to be like 3.5 minutes, but it's about the dreamers. So, and yeah, so I'll get that out for you guys this week. So, all right. Let's see. Yeah. Applying pressure to the open wound. Yeah, I know. There's a couple of methods. Okay. Yes, seeing Tanzil get hurt by Arion could have brought up emotions from Wraith being killed. Exactly. And that's why I think, like, you know, Wraith, you know, she looks similar to Tanzil. And so I think that it was just an immediate, like, response from Dunk where he, you know, he probably has been carrying around this terrible trauma in his heart about what happened to Wraith. And, you know, had something been different, or if he had stepped in or, you know, been a little more firm with her, like maybe that could have been prevented. And so when he sees Tanzel, and it's probably evoking those same exact emotions and feelings, and it was that's a thick skull right there, thick as a castle wall. So it takes a second for the thoughts to process. But unfortunately, he just went bear mode and just started beating up Arion. So, I don't blame him. Yeah, fate mogging bigly. Indeed. Okay. Let's see. Oh, Baelor was even reading about Maegor's trial of 7 the night he suggested it to Dunk. He knew he'd have to fight on his side. Yeah, I think that he gave Dunk that suggestion to do a trial by combat, and then that backfired, and Arion was like, no, we're going to do the trial of 7. So yeah, I think Baelor knew his fate. And, I talked about this last week. It was just, and even I did a video, Chad Maxing, Baelor goes Chad Max on Targaryen. Check it out. But he knew that was the only way to balance the scales. It's team Targaryen versus basically team small folk. And it's even more than that, because even on Dunk's team, we had all this symbolic layers of the First Men versus the Andals and the Faith of the Seven versus the Targaryens, them being incestuous aliens, the Fossaways being a First Men house. So they're an ancient noble lineage. And so when they see the Targaryens coming in, these incestuous aliens, a race apart from everyone else, utilizing the Faith of the Seven, so almost standing on the Faith of the Seven in order to evoke this battle, it was cursed from the beginning. This is a cursed battle. There was no, so Dunk actually is the most noble knight out of everyone, because he doesn't have any sort of overarching motivations in the whole thing, right? The way that the Fossaways, he Stefan is just trying to earn his own lordship and become something greater and elevate their house. Raymond, he's true, he's honorable. All those guys on Dunk's side are true honorable knights. We had Sir Robin, brave Sir Robin, being a vessel for the warrior. The Humphreys, Harding, he had his own motivations, his own vengeance in mind. But Beesbury, I don't know, he was just ready to die. He was just ready to roll. And as I say, he's an honorary yellow jacket because, as we saw in the first episode, he was in there partying, having his doom coming in the Baratheon overstimulation tent. So he's just ready. He was having his doom coming. He's already ready to die. He already signed off, baby. He signed off. All right. That's my honorary yellow jackets, and he knows how to party. Okay. So anyways, long story short, yes, I think Baelor already knew that. So, okay. And Carl Carson, I wish we had seen Rafe first and then Tanzel. It would have been more foreshadowing and history repeating itself. Yeah, I think it's if you're an astute viewer, you'll catch it, with it being a flashback. If you're not, then that might have been, people may not have noticed the similarity in those two characters. But yeah, I like how it played out. I think it was good to have it as a flashback because it kind of just, I don't know, it was just good timing the way that it all played out. Okay. Yeah, exactly. I feel like the blow to Baelor that Maekar makes was right before my boy. Yeah, I think so too, because I think they were fighting with each other. He hears Arion screaming, and then he's just like, "Get away from me! Get off me, brother!" And he starts running. And so I think honestly, the action was probably done just second instinct. Like he just didn't even think about it. He, they were fighting their brothers. You know how it goes. You know how it goes when you're fighting with your brother. Sometimes, you hit them a little too hard, something happens, and all of a sudden someone's crying to mom. And it's like, oh, I didn't mean to hit him that hard. It just kind of happened, And so unfortunately that just happened between Baylor and Makar. He just was trying to get to his son. He had pure intentions, and his intention was not to hurt his brother, but that's just kind of how it happened. Sam Sproul. Thank you. I knew I was like, no, it's not Steven. It's Sam Sproul. Okay. Arion's only sin in his father's eye is that he wasn't the firstborn. Could you imagine? That's terrifying. Like, we're lucky that Daron is drunk. Okay. Okay. Oh, I was expecting some super gross squishy brain sounds. Yeah, I'm glad that it wasn't any more like gory than it was, Who's the chud in this story? Well, Arion probably. Like, he's just getting mogged. He's getting straight mogged up and down. So he's like our chud. Like, he thinks he's a Chad. He thinks he's Chad maxing, but he's really just like chud mogging, See, Carl gets it. This is a linguistics, you know what? Yeah, we're on the same wavelength, all right? Sometimes you gotta mog. Just for the principle of mogging. Okay. Yeah, I saw a picture. Yeah, Darren's just somewhere lying in the mud. Which, I mean, Dunk didn't do the job. Like, they made a deal, like, hit me upside the head, Dunk didn't follow through on his end of the deal. But so maybe Darren's just faking, which honestly, good for him. He's just like, let me fall off my horse and I'll be here, right here, laying in the mud. Yeah, Targaryens do tend towards madness. I mean, they have their moments, the gods flip a coin. Okay. All right. So, yeah, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and one need not intend harm in order to do it. So, all right, you guys. Well, that's about that for the comments, and that's about that for the episode. And I so appreciate you guys being here and watching the live. If you are here, whoops, Duncan, get out of here. Okay. But I so appreciate you guys being here, and I will be back next week to discuss the final episode. Like, we are really wrapping it up. I'm not ready. This has been just such a crazy month. With just so many shows that I'm covering. And again, I'm covering the Pendragon cycle. So if you guys are not watching that, I highly recommend it. It is an excellent series thus far. It has 7 episodes in the first season. And so I'm hoping to do a live stream at the end of the season, and just to kind of discuss everything that happened in there. So if you guys are interested in that, that's an Arthurian retelling. And the first season is focused mostly on Merlin and sort of the backstory on the matter of Britain, involving the history of the Mabinogion and like Taliesin, the Bard of Britain, and then Merlin, and then it sort of evolves into King Arthur. So it's an excellent series. I highly recommend it. And I am covering that on my channel as well. So if you want to check out any content on that, definitely check it out. But next week we have, yes, more Arthur is always a good thing. Indeed. Never enough Arthur. But next week I will be back to cover the final episode, and then I've got a couple of more things in the following weeks to live stream about. So I am excited to continue live streaming with you guys and keep you all up to date on everything that's going on, because there has been a lot going on. Like, 2026 is crazy. We have a lot of content coming out. I have a lot of projects that I'm going to be working on. So I hope to just be here and be present with you guys. And, we have House of the Dragon this summer. So we're going to have season 3 of House of the Dragon. You know, I've been covering that. I covered season 1 and season 2. So definitely I will be back for season 3. I will not be deterred. I will not be silenced. No matter how hard these people try and mog. No matter if people aren't watching my videos or I'm shadow mogged, that's okay. That's okay. I will still max. You can mog, I will max. So but I so appreciate you guys, and that about wraps it up. And so I will see you all next week. Jackie out. Oh, and by the way, one just last little thing. It's like, if you're going to go out and you're going to be talking about me behind my back, you should definitely consider who you're doing that with. Like, you should definitely choose smarter people. So I just want to put that out there for someone very specific that I know this message needs to be heard by them. If you're going to talk crap about me behind my back, choose smarter people to do it with, because I can figure you out. And you know what? You're not in a position to be running around talking about me at all. You know what? Because I've been in this fandom for a very long time. I know who you are. I know exactly who you are. And I know your history. And I have receipts. So keep talking about me. Keep trying to mess with me. I ain't the one. Don't play with me. Okay? Keep my name out of your mouth. Do not play with me. Jackie out.